What up? Happy Thursday. I do know what day it is, I swear. First of all, I got some talkative dogs tonight, so fair warning. But let's talk about the fastest way. The fastest way to eliminate rage from your life. It's really simple, but it's not easy. The number one thing that I find that has triggered my rage episodes are my own expectations. And I think that should make sense to most people. You should probably relate to that because it's our expectations that are not met that leave us in a place of sometimes overwhelm, sometimes disappointment, sometimes fear. But when it's all said and done, it was always our expectations that got us in that situation. So that's the fastest way is to stop having expectations or put them in check, really, is to put them in check. And sometimes I don't always even recognize that I had expectations until I get to the point where I am kind of freaking out now. And so the last time this happened was actually relatively recently. The cool thing is now I've gotten to a point where I recognize that this is happening before before I realize it's happening before I actually get to the rage point, right? Like I start to get a feeling in my chest. I don't know about you, but I feel like literally feel rage right here. So, I'll actually start to feel that kind of like bubbling up. Like I'll start to feel a little sensation and then I'll realize like, oh, we're headed to a bad place here. It's time to analyze what's happening. And uh premeditated resentments. Okay. So I can't read who said it, so I apologize. But it says in recovery we say that expectations are premeditated resentments. That's yes. Yes. And also I've also heard it that let's see, how does it go? I'll have to think about it for a minute instead of sitting here in silence. But it's about expectations. Yes. Expectations minus reality equals disappointment. So there's another outlook on it. But anyway, so the whole point here is that I know I'm to the point where I can assess that, like I can feel it coming and assess, okay, the situation, what's going on here? If I'm overwhelmed, okay, that's fine. Then can I delegate something? If I'm feeling disappointed though, like then clearly there was an expectation here. Or if I really am truly angry, that's kind of also tied to disappointment because I'm usually angry because somebody didn't do what they told me they would, right? So that was an expectation. However, if you're never going to get to the point where you don't have an expectation, especially when it comes to things where somebody said they were going to do it. So it seems like that expectation is a given. It seems like, well, obviously I expected it because you told me. You told me that that's what you told me that. You told me that's what you were going to do. You didn't do it. So this is where in my process I just validate that in myself and say, yeah, I'm allowed. I'm allowed. It is totally expected of me. If it were somebody else, they would probably feel the same way I do, to be disappointed, to be angry that you did not meet the expectations that, you set for yourself when you told me that you would do this. But yeah, so the fastest way is to not have any more expectations. That's not entirely possible. So the alternative, if you are interested, is a combination of things that I've discovered over the last, gosh, I really have been developing this and working on it for 10 years. But the last 5 years have been really just leaps and bounds, right? Like you put in a lot of effort for a long time and maybe you don't see results, but then eventually all that effort compounds and you just get boom results. And that's the way the last 5 years have been for me in this area of my life. So the alternative to never having expectations for anyone or anything ever again is learning some skills, learning some coping mechanisms, learning some things about how your brain works, learning some things about how chemicals in your body, hormones in your body can influence and create emotion, learning about those things to use them to your advantage and not let them use you. Because until you can get to the point where you can recognize an emotion and recognize that you choose and control whether or not you continue to experience that emotion, until you get to that point, you're going to have big emotional outbursts in your life. And also, let me just say, while I don't experience rage like I used to, while I don't become overwhelmed with it, it is something that I still feel occasionally, right? It's not something that it's been such a long time since I've had like an all-out rage outburst that I'm not like, I don't want to say that you're never going to have one again, but I haven't had one for a long time. So I don't know. I usually prevent it from going any further than just getting to the point where I'm starting to feel flustered, where the emotion is starting to get to the point where it could overwhelm me. Then I have the awareness that it's there and I need to move on. So all that ramble just to say, if this is something that you feel that you need to learn more about, then you need to jump on over to my Facebook group, Heart-Centered and Intentional Horsewomen, and check out guide number 1, the first guide, because if you are thinking that we still have units in Facebook, you're a crazy person. They changed it again. It's guides now. So guide number 1 is actually the adventure from outbursts to peace, which is my process of learning to cope with rage and learning to move away from rage. So if that's something that interests you, jump in that group. And if you are sitting there going, well, that interests me, but I am not a horsewoman, that's okay. We won't judge you. We won't shun you. We just occasionally talk about horses because we're crazy horse people and we love them to pieces and they make our lives better. So if you're not too intimidated by the fact that it's a group full of crazy horsewomen, jump on in. And again, I think I kind of covered it, but if you also don't fall into the woman category, we will accept you. We will accept you. And honestly, I know that my husband's in the group, so you won't be alone. But also, it would be nice to have a man's perspective. It would be nice to have a man's perspective to hear how things differ for you, if they differ for you, because I'm not going to assume that I understand the inner workings of men. That would be too far out there. So anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes tonight. It has been great. Thank you to those watching on Facebook and whoever you are, random Facebook user that I read your comment. Thank you so much for participating. I'm sure I know you. It for some reason isn't showing me your name. It just says Facebook user. So sorry. Anyways, have a fabulous night, you guys, and I will chat with you tomorrow.